slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're with my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.
All right, y'all, finally, we're here. We're live. You're watching Buster Unmasked. Like this video, share this video, go to Buster H.R. Johnson on YouTube and subscribe to my channel. Hit that notification bell. That way you know when new content's out. I ain't wasting no time today. I'm fired up. It's been a while. I'm glad to see you guys. We made it through the tornadoes, the floods, the wind, and the rain, and finally, we're back. I was beginning to wonder if it would happen, guys. You know what I got to do. I've got to promote these upcoming podcasts right quick before we get our guest out here. Pay attention to these podcasts. There's been some reschedules, some new dates, a couple of new podcasts added. Just pay attention to them, and we'll get this show underway in just a second, guys.
One shot to the head, I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down, man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fate. She look better in bed, and I'ma rock this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change. I got one life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging, don't you forget.
Everything is so boring. Can't get up in the morning. I'm so sick of the mundane and routine. I'm gonna break without warning.
I wanna taste the pain, I think I'm seeing all red. 2 bullets in the gun, one shot to the head, I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down, man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fate. And she look better in bed, and I'ma rock this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change. I got one life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging, don't you forget.
All right, guys, you see it right there. Got some really cool podcasts coming up. Don't miss not one of them. Hit that notification bell. That way you know when we're out. Look, this week's going to be a busy week. We got tonight, tomorrow night. I got the hit marker Brian Hit. And then Friday night, I got everybody's favorite goddess of the night, the one and only EPW Women's Champion, Nyx. But tonight, it's all about my guest. And let me just say this about my guest tonight. I don't know if this guy's just a throwback from yesteryear, or he literally stepped through a time portal from the 40s and the 50s into the day. But what I do know, he's got that old school look. He's got that old school mentality. And he's definitely got that old school swagger. In my opinion, he is the absolute last of a dying breed. I bring to you the one and only Gator Bait himself, Roscoe Monroe. Roscoe.
Welcome to the Roscoe Nation, everybody. Glad to be here, Buster. Buster, can I take just a minute and talk about you? I want to talk about you for just a minute. I remember when you first got started with this channel, and you had to have 1,000 people to like and subscribe. And I was one of the first ones to get on there to like and subscribe. And you would put on live matches, local matches. But one thing that you did, you put on vintage matches. And you would come out there and you say, hey, everybody, I'm Buster H.R. Johnson. Like and subscribe. And then you'd start with that vintage match. And those matches, I mean, they were exactly down my alley. I studied them. I studied the moves. I studied the holds. It was like, this guy gets it. He gets it. In addition to that, when I was, just like here in the beginning, when you're in your intro, you spent some time with Sam Dollar, and I'm a huge Sam Dollar huge Sam Dollar fan. And when I was training at Tuckerman, about 2 years there, I came up to Hoxie, and Sam Dollar was managing Dirty Little Dave, and I think they called him Big Sarge. And that's one thing, Sam Dollar's timing is impeccable, and I was in awe of the man, and got to work with him there a little bit. Not quite like you, but got to work with him a little bit. So I just love seeing the videos of you and him together, and also seeing he's going to be on here. I got to catch that podcast coming up. And the last thing is, when I was growing up on Panther Creek, my dad had a fishing shack there. You guys grew up in the Memphis area, Memphis wrestling. And where I grew up, it's more of Cowboy Bill Watts, Leroy McGurk, Tri-State kind of. So it's a little bit different. And I always wanted to go to Memphis. My dad's like, no, we're not. No, you know. But in the Leroy McGurk territory, there was a commentator there by the name of Boyd Pierce, who would wear these incredible suits, and he had a very interesting accent and a very interesting voice. And he would call wrestlers wrestlers, and he would call it wrestling. And I mean, I was like, yeah, this is different. This ain't the Olympic stuff. This is wrestling. And I'd be in my diapers, and I would run in, and I would run up to the old black and white Philco TV and everything. And I would be, oh my goodness. And I'd hear Boyd Pierce come on and talk. And when you start your show, and when you're like out there like this, and you're like and subscribe, it does the same thing to me that Boyd Pierce did when I was a kid. And it starts that spark, gets me all excited. I get to see a wrestling match now. I get to see a wrestling match because I feel like you get it. Thank you for having me on here, man.
Roscoe, I appreciate all them kind words, man. Look, you talk about me and Sam Dollar. Look, I've spent 51 years with him. I don't know if you know this or not. Sam's actually my brother, my big brother. In real life, nobody believes that because we're like Mutt and Jeff. I'm up here and he's down here.
The man got in there.
Exactly, man. Nobody believes we're real brothers, but we're straight up real brothers. Sam's been with me my whole life. Truthfully, if it wasn't for Sam, I probably wouldn't have got in the wrestling business. When I was born, it was his dream for me to be a wrestler and him to be my manager. And lo and behold, 1991, we started that journey, and we did it for a long time together, dude. And I appreciate all that. But Roscoe, it is all about you here tonight. Okay. It's all about Roscoe Monroe. And look, we're going to get to wrestling, but before we get to wrestling, I like to go all the way back. And what I want you to do, Roscoe, is take us all the way back to when Roscoe Monroe was a little kid. Talk to us about your upbringing and your raising, man.
Man, my dad looks like a wrestler. He was like 5'10", 250 pounds, World War II veteran, was a truck driver and a a volunteer fire chief in a place called Sherwood, Arkansas here for like 35 years. But he had a 2-room fishing shack on Panther Creek Bayou on the very, very eastern edge of Lake Conway that they call Palarm area, which is, I think it's a Polish name. But I grew up in diapers running from snakes and gators. I mean,
Right.
I mean, them snakes, I remember them black snakes, they called them racers, black racers. They would come out of them bushes, and I would, oh my God, and I would run as hard and fast as I could. And I scared them as much as they scared me. And they'd go running between my legs, and I would literally pee in my diapers. You know, it was just that kind of a situation. But that 2-room shack brought in all my cousins, all the firemen, all the people from the community. They have these big fish fries, but one thing they would do, they go out. You don't hear people talk about this too much nowadays. They have trot lines.
Trot lines, yes.
So they go out overnight and they'd catch all this fish, and they'd come in early in the morning and start cleaning them on the table, and they'd start to get done around noon, and that's when I would be running in there with my diapers. So I'd go up to this old black and white Philco TV set with the rabbit ears and the aluminum foil up on there. And that's when Boyd Pierce would come on, and I was enthralled. It was like, if you're going to be a man in this society, then by God, this is the way you got to be. Of course, I had my dad. He always wanted to be a wrestler, and I feel he died in 2003. And in a way, I kind of feel like I'm channeling, what he wanted. And there are times I do things, or I'll have moves that I'll do in the ring, and I'm like, that ain't me. Where'd that come from? What the hell is that? That's something he would do.
Right.
But from there, at about 7 years old, there was a fork in the road happened, and Roscoe kind of went away. And the world came in, and I had to go to school and do what the school people and do what society wanted. And I ended up, going to University of Arkansas, Fayetteville, and ended up at the Med Center in Little Rock, going to the University of Arkansas Medical Science campus, and ended up, chasing that career. And the whole time, wrestling was on the back of my mind. And I do say wrestling. That's the way I consider this. I like the genre. I like the pull of it. Daniel, that's why I love you so much, is because you get it. You know what wrestling is. And, it was always there, and I was always kind of looked a little askance by people that I would watch this stuff and be so wrapped up in it and everything. And then I'm going to tell on myself. I lived in Texas for a little while. Nacogdoches, city of ghosts, the oldest city in Texas. My dad had a massive heart attack. I moved back, and then I ended up getting into a fist fight in a church parking lot. It was an Episcopalian church, and I was Methodist at the time, and he was Catholic, so it was an interdenominational fisticuff. And so I started doing judo. I did judo for like 5 years. And then the dojo collapsed, and then YouTube came up, the internet came up, and YouTube came up, and they had a messenger service at that time. And there was a Baptist deacon up in St. Louis area would come down, and we would practice judo for a little bit. And then he would say, have you ever tried pro wrestling or anything? I'm like, no. And then he started body slamming me around and everything, and all this stuff. I was like, man, that stuff is great. So I started going to what you would call catch wrestling tournaments. I think they call them grappling tournaments in Atlanta.
Right.
And I went to one. I mean, there were like 80 contestants from 40 states and 2 different countries. And they had a professional wrestling ring they put up, and I could only get so far because I'd run into people who were Olympic champions, and they would just crush me within like 2 or 3 minutes doing that stuff, because it's a real quick kind of a match.
Yeah.
And then I got up in the ring and I was in there for 3 days and they couldn't get rid of me. And people were up there looking at their watch going, you need to get out of the ring. And about Sunday, when it came time to go like to the awards ceremony and all, the 2 professional wrestlers they hired sat down next to me at breakfast table and gave me the talk. You know, it's kind of like maybe what Sam Dollar gave you when you were young, you know, about what his plans were in the future. And basically they told me I would die a very unhappy man if I did not pursue going back to Arkansas and finding somebody to train me. So, or to train with somebody, you know, at that point. And so I came back to Arkansas and I found the meanest looking person I could find. You know, the baddest hombre I could on social media as far as independent wrestling in this area, and that was Norman McLeod. And I was like, "Hey, can I train with you?" And he's like, "No." I was like, "Great, that's fine, dude. Can you suggest anybody?" And I ended up at Tuckerman for 2 years, and then the rest is history. I ended up in you know, we had the pandemic, and then I ended up in mid-states up in Harrison, Branson, and Springfield with Jason Jones for 2.5 years. I got trained by Gary Roosevelt Graham for about 2.5 years there. He's been wrestling in 38 states and I think Mexico. And they would bring in people, like I spent about 4 days with Jimmy Mouth of the South Hard, and just a whole bunch of people that they kind of brought in to train and do seminars and stuff like that to get us, you know, James Beard, I mean, to get us up to speed and everything. And then I miraculously ended up at 901, which has been a godsend. It really has. So that's more than the elevator story of where I got from and how I got there, but that's it in a nutshell.
Well, I feel like me and you, I feel like right here, I was the same way, man. From the time I seen pro wrestling, of course, like I said, we didn't grow up in Memphis. We actually live in Helena, Arkansas. That's where I'm from. We're right on the banks of the Mississippi River, right down in the Delta. But man, obviously Memphis wrestling was our local every Saturday wrestling. And I was lucky enough where I lived at my time, the Superstation had just come along. So
Oh,
I got NWA. It wasn't WCW at all then. NWA. Actually, it was Georgia Championship Wrestling, you know, and then it turned into WCW. But also, we would get Little Rock Station, so I would get Bill Watts' show. I'd get the UWF off of a Little Rock Station. Ever so often, for some reason, you know, back then, you're talking about the rabbit ears, you kind of play around with them. You're liable to get something bleed in from somewhere you never expect. I used to get Texas wrestling. I used to get the Von Erichs a lot. So and then USA come along too about the same time, and there's WWF. So I got lucky, and I had a realm of wrestling that I got to watch. But obviously Memphis wrestling. There's a big difference in northern wrestling and southern wrestling.
yeah.
And I love southern wrestling, but I was enthralled with it just like you. I do not remember not having wrestling in my life. Right. I was hooked from day one, man. I was 5 years old, and I'd lay in my mom and dad's living room, and I had this big giant panda bear, big giant stuffed animal. I mean, it was bigger than me. Whole time from 11 o'clock to 12:30. Man, I wrestled that damn panda bear the whole time, dude. And that's all I ever wanted to be, Roscoe. Truthfully, that's all I ever wanted to be was a wrestler. And man, you sound just like me. And here's the thing, Boyd Pierce. Like I said, I used to get UWF, so I listened to a lot of Boyd Pierce, Lance Russell, Gordon Soley.
Yeah.
These are the voices of my youth, man. And there's nothing like Southern wrestling. And you said the first guy you got in touch with was Medlikoff. And now it seems like it come full circle because let's just let the cat out of the bag. We see the belt there behind you. This past Sunday at 901 Wrestling, the Gentleman's Club, you and Norman Medlikoff became the brand new 901 Wrestling Tag Team Champions. So talk to me a little bit about that.
Well, It was a bit of a surprise. I mean, you're going to have MJ on here, and him and Don Montana had a tag team called the Shotaz. Top head.
Top shotters.
Well, they're blown.
Right.
So, who they were going to wrestle had a severe injury. I mean, they're not going to be able to come back for a while. So there was nobody for them to wrestle them. I thought, well, how arrogant could you possibly be? And Tommy Jax was down there in the ring, so I just marched my lily white ass out there and right on down in the ring. I said, y'all need to stop being arrogant. I've got, Methlikoff in the back here, and I didn't talk to him about it beforehand, so he was just. He was just a little bit miffed. I was dressed already out to wrestle, and he just was out there in his street clothes. But I mean, we got into it, and I don't know how it all kind of ended up. I'm still kind of sore, but we ended up being the tag team champions, and I'm in shock because I'll be honest with you, I'm 67 years old. This may be the last belt I have anything to do with. And, I just kind of have taken the toll. I'm just going to take it a day at a time and see how far it'll go, see where my body will allow me to take it.
Right.
And start building a tag team kind of foundation there at 901 and see if we can get some folk in there and do some damage. That crowd, that's what I got to talk to you about. I've been picking my mind forever. And I need to talk about some of the people that have been in my career going forward, because this ain't been me.
Right.
One thing about Roscoe Monroe is it's the nation. I mean, all these people, Jared Whitmire, who got behind me and gave me a push, Norman, all the other people who kind of, have been mentors and steered me, Chief Hill, I want to talk about them, but, where was I going? I was talking about
you and Memphis becoming tag team champions, and you said, and I'm glad you said this, Roscoe. I don't mean to cut you off a second. I'm glad you said your age, because I was wondering that. Like I said, I'm 51, just turned 51 in January, and I you know how wrestlers are, especially older wrestlers. A lot of times, older wrestlers don't want their age out there. So in my head, the whole week I've been debating whether I was going to ask you how old you were or not. And I was going to do it before we went live and forgot all about it. Yeah. But I'm glad you said that, because I was going to ask you how old you were. And that brings me, well, I'll tell you what, you finish your thought, and then that brings me to my first real question.
Well, that's the problem with being 67 years old, is I forgot what my thought was. What were we talking about? I'm serious.
Well, you were talking about you didn't know how long you're going to ride this way, but you didn't know how long, being 67, that your body could hold up to this schedule and this. Into pro wrestling, man. Pro wrestling is a tough sport. It's tough on the body. There's no way around your body being abused. That's what pro wrestling's all about, man.
Yeah, I'm sore now. What I've learned is, if you're going to do this right, or at least this is me. This is just me. You watched WCW. You watched all them wrestlers from back in the day. They were built like brick houses. I mean, they were just. So I spend 3 to 4 days a week in the gym, hour and a half, sometimes 2. And I'm finding that I'm getting just as many injuries from the gym as I'm getting inside the ring.
Right.
So I'm having to have to modify everything, modify what I do at the gym, and then do things in the ring in a little bit different way. I still bump. I'll still jump off that top rope on you in a New York minute. And that's one thing I kind of wanted to get into just real quick, if you don't mind. We had the pandemic, and I got the second COVID shot, and the second COVID shot put me in the hospital with an inflamed heart. I had heart failure,
man,
and so along came OCW, was wanting to crank back up again, and Ronnie Blackshear, Laser, I don't know if you know who Paul Beecham is. He spells his name Beauchamp, but it's like
Yeah, I know who Mr. Paul is.
and Jared Whitmire were there, and they was like, just get well, and when you get out of that, as soon as you get out of that hospital bed, you come here. And they put a huge push on me, and somehow or another, I won the belt on the day my dad died.
Wow.
July 3rd. He died July 3rd, 2003, and I won the OCW heavyweight champion on July 3rd. And it didn't really hit me until I was driving home, and I had to pull off the road and kind of kneel down and thank God, thank the Lord, and cry my eyes out. You know, that had come full circle.
That's a big, I mean, really, here's the thing, man. I don't really believe in coincidences. Mm-hmm. I believe that things that happen are supposed to happen.
Yeah.
And like you were talking about earlier, doing moves that you'll do a move in the ring and you're like, I don't even know where that come from. Could be your dad living through you right now, man. Could be your dad vicariously living through you, watching what's going on. And man, I get that. I mean, especially for it not to be planned to win the title on your dad's on the day he passed away.
Correct.
That is crazy, man. That's more than a coincidence for me.
Correct. And then I got this thing where, you know, I would see people do promos, and they'd get up there and they'd just stand in front of the camera and kind of do their shtick or spiel or whatever they're going to do. And I thought, you know, I kind of want to make mine a little different. So hooking up with Jared Whitmire, he just shot the rockets off. He just shot me into, you know, he taught me a very specific method, you know, and that's one thing like people don't realize is I spent some time like at the Walton School of Business up there at the University of Arkansas, 2 semesters in marketing. And, you know, it's like, I knew that the American public only has a certain amount of attention span.
Right.
So you got to get in there, get their attention.
Yeah, it's super short now.
Yeah, TikTok's made it down to about a minute 15 seconds.
If you're lucky, even.
So you have to just get it out there really quick. So I started doing these little venues and all, and Jared just got behind me and was a genius pushing me forward. And now here I'm with Meklikoff. And Meklikoff, when we got together and decided to be a tag team, you have to understand that was a huge thing for me, because for 10 years, all I've done is wrestle him. And it's like, so we're going to come together and be a tag team. Interesting. But his artistry that he does, his style is European. It's very clean, minimalistic, you know, just a whole different feel, vibe to it and everything. And that's one thing I have to talk about also is, you know, during this period of time I was at OCW with Jared and everything. That's what I was going to talk to you about. When I was training at Tuckerman and they took me up to OCW up at Hoxie, and you know, this is that period of time as Sam Dollar was there and Dirty Little Dave and everything. There was Chief Hill, and I saw Chief had gray hair, and he was up there wrestling and was hugely athletic and everything. And I kept my trainer going, look, you know, and he's like, you're just saying and being all this because he's old. And I'm like, well, exactly, you know. So during the pandemic, Chief kind of laid off, and he really didn't want to come back to wrestling or anything. He would do it like tag team. I mean, he was kind of on the fence, and I was like, please, 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 please come back. And that man came back, and he got in there with me while I was rehabbing from that heart attack. And we spent a year wrestling each other, and we ended up becoming tag team with each other. And that's something else I have to talk about.
Funny how that happens, right? You end up, look, one of my most favorite, matter of fact, two, Motley Cruz and Ron McClarty, we started off as opponents and I ended up tagging with both of them before it was over.
But what amazed me is that I was able to intuitively know what Chief was going to do next. And I was like, oh man, this is cool. You know, this is really cool, because when the matches were going on, we could bring like total chaos to the crowd, you know, and just really enjoyed, and the way he works the crowd and everything. He taught me. And do you remember who Nugget is? Have you ever heard of Nugget?
Yeah.
Nugget was sitting backstage in the locker room with me one time, and he pointed at Chief Hill up on the ring, and he said, "You know what makes a mean ass heel like that?" I went, "No." He said, "8 years of being a baby." And I said, "Yeah, as long as I've been a baby, it just pisses me off, you know. You can't do that. You babies don't do that, you know. I get so sick of hearing that crap." And anyway, you know, Chief Hill took me there. So it's not been me. It's been all these other people, from the wrestlers down there in Atlanta to the trainers that have all been through here, you know, to Jared giving me my first push, to Chief Hill taking me underneath his wing, to now being with Bickle. It's everybody else. It's not me. I'm just the channel that they've chosen to work through to produce something and to manifest it out there. Thank God that they like the old school, the stuff. You know, when YouTube came out and that black and white stuff started showing up, I was just like I was in diapers. I was on that computer screen, just like, oh my God. That's what I want to bring to the American public now.
Right. You got that feel, man. You got that. Like I said, I don't know if you're a throwback or you walk straight through a time portal from the 50s, dude, but you've got that feel. And you talk about him, Jared. He's actually the guy who made the intro for me. My intro to this podcast, he made. And Meglikov, man, I've seen some of his art. Dude, this dude is talented, man. He's a hell of an artist, man. He's a multi-talented guy. Same thing with Jared and Chief Hill, man. I love Chief Hill.
Yeah.
I love him, man. He old school to the core, man. I love that dude. And it's crazy, like we said, comes full circle, man. You and Meglikov, you're now the tag team champions, and he wouldn't even train you the first time you talked to him, you know? So look, Roscoe, before we get going, let me shout out a couple of these people. And I got a question for you already. We got Eric J. He says, enjoying the show, brother. What's up, Eric? I appreciate you watching, man. We got Mark McGee. Good evening, brothers. Mark, good evening to you, man. We appreciate you tuning in and watching. We got Tim Davis, always excuse my language, but always a doo-doo stir. He'll stir the pot, man. He says, Hellraiser and Roscoe versus Sam Dollar and Tim Davis, anytime, anywhere. Book it, Mark Southern. Are you serious, man? Me and Roscoe will beat the crap out of you two, man. I owe Sam an ass whooping right now for something he did when I was 16 years old, man. We'll beat the crap out of y'all. We got Trey Howes here. He says, I'll be honest with you, this question has been on here since 12:51 this afternoon, 12:51 p.m. He said, could you ask Roscoe if being a referee simplifies the wrestling with the audience? Because you did some refereeing, right?
Oh, yeah, that's part of my training. I did the old school way. I did 2 years of pro wrestling boot camp there at Tuckerman. So I did, of course, they start you out with being a security and training. And then the next year you did reffing and training. And they want you to be a top-notch ref, you know.
Let me ask you this, Roscoe. He wants to know if it simplifies the wrestling with the audience, and I want you to answer that. But I also want to know, because here's the thing: when you start out in the wrestling business, man, a lot of guys, it's good for a lot of guys to start out as referees because it gives you a chance to be in the ring with these guys, to see firsthand right there kind of how a match is supposed to happen, how the crowd reacts. Do you think that helped you, man, being a referee before you actually started wrestling? Do you think that helped you once you started being an active wrestler?
Absolutely. And I think if you'll notice in my matches, I try to incorporate the referees as much as I can, as much as they will allow me to. I want them to be just as much a part of what's happening as what you see with the combatants. I mean, they're the ones who are basically running the match as far as I'm concerned.
Right.
You know, and what reffing taught me was a level of discipline, of being detached, and yes, it did simplify my reaction and my interactions with the audience. It sure did. Because you take a lot of heat from some people. I mean,
Right.
they'll get right up there on that rail and say, I'm going to kill you. I'm going to kill your grandma. I'm going to kill your dog. And then I'm going to piss on your grave. And you're like, oh, well, we're going to run to the parking lot when this is all over with. Yeah, I mean, people get into this stuff big time. And I had to learn all that. I had to learn how to, and then also, you got some big egos in them locker rooms, and you know that's all that referee's fault. And you have to sit there, and you got to have enough of thick skin and then be able to stand on your own and say, 1, 2, 3, your shoulders were down, regardless of what you say. Your shoulders were down. You should have picked them up if you had wanted to.
I don't think people realize how important, look, not just for the whole scheme of a match, but man, to the wrestlers, if you've got, look, you can, there's a lot of times you have guys in referee shirts in the match reffing. There's other times and you got good referees, and a wrestler's best friend is them good referees that know the business. I mean, there's a lot of times you get out there, you got real good referees, got a lot of experience. Say you're running dry on spots. Everybody's kind of done run a blank.
Yeah.
Good referee will call a spot for you, man, and it makes it so much easier. But having a good professional referee, man, means the world in the professional wrestling ring, not just for the whole overall match, but for the wrestlers, man. Because, I mean, you know as well as I do, a lot of times you get in the ring and these referees are just a bot. They might as well be a mannequin that somebody put a shirt on. I mean, it's just honest. They have no idea what to really do.
Right.
And they just kind of look around. And a lot of times the wrestlers, when you're in that cases, you end up having to direct the referees what to do. But when you got a referee that actually knows what he's doing, man, it makes the match just so much easier and smoother.
All right, I'm going to make this a little bit controversial. So I was up in Springfield. They had about 540 people in the crowd, a maximum crowd. And had a referee that smoked a little weed and kind of got up in there and was kind of ding dong. And you know, if you can have a referee that can give you information or do some things that absolutely screw the match up for you,
right?
You know, but the ones that take it seriously, who are professional about it, who want to be there, who want to add to the experience. And, you know, and another thing about the referees is sometimes they keep the wrestler safe. And, you know, to me, they're definitely a part of the entire experience of the match itself, part of that story. And that's one thing I kind of want to get back to is, you know, and I think we've kind of lost now is you really need to get in that ring and tell a story physically.
I agree with that 100%.
You know, and that's one thing I love about your matches and stuff. You just come out and just start pummeling the hell out of them people. I love that stuff. But yeah, the refereeing definitely. And you know, like I said, I'm 67. Who knows? Maybe 3 years from now I'll be 70. Maybe it's time to kick back and referee once again, you know,
right,
and do that kind of stuff. And I like doing color commentary also in the character of Roscoe. And here again, I absorb Sam Dollar. I you know, Sam Dollar's, you know, whole energy and whole vibe. I kind of try to absorb the stuff that he does. You know, that's who made me, was you guys. I'm just taking you and distilling it in here, and it comes out as Roscoe.
Man, it's so weird to hear you say that when I'm 16 years younger than you, man. That's just crazy to hear you say it like that. But I fully understand, man. I get that. And you know, before we get much further, that's something I wanted, because I meant to ask you earlier. How old were you when you actually broke in the business?
58.
58, 67. So 9 years in now.
I'm 9 years in.
Man.
But now, I remember I did judo and the grappling and all that stuff before, and I always wanted to do this. And I'll tell you why. Going to that tournament down there in Atlanta and pulling the trigger when those two, and I'll tell you who those professional wrestlers were. One was Nighthawk, Ron Thomas from northern Tampa area of Florida. He's won all these championships from Corpus Christi all around the Gulf and everything. And the other was a guy named Ace, Blackjack Ace or something like that from Las Vegas. He was the one that did all the talking. But what were we talking about again? That dropped on my head.
Damn, Roscoe, I'm going to the same thing you are.
It's catching. But anyway, I was 58 years old when I started, and what made me pull the trigger was I found my thought. I had to take care of a demented parent in my house for 15 years. That's 24/7, 365. Tried to keep her house up, tried to keep my house up. And when she finally went into the nursing home, it was like, if I don't pull the trigger on this and do this, I'm going to hate myself, and it's going to be hard to put my head on the pillow for the rest of my life. And that's why I did what I did.
Well, let me ask you this: being 58, and how much back and forth was it mentally, man, for you? Do I really do this? I'm 58 years old. I mean, because honestly, wrestling is a young man's sport.
Yeah.
The younger you get in it, the better off you usually are. Yeah. And like we've already talked, man, when you get older, man, your body don't take abuse like it did when you were young. Now, you doing judo and different stuff and grappling. Think about judo, you take a lot of throws. So you know how to take bumps. You know how to take bumps without getting hurt. So that was a plus for you.
Yes.
But how much was it much of a struggle, or was you like just gung-ho, like, no, I'm ready for it, let's get it done?
So I got a story about that. So my first trainer was Josh Shackelford at Tucker. And Josh is very, very tough. I think he's in his late 20s, maybe early 30s. But he's fair. He said, if you're uncomfortable to doing anything, don't try it, Well, don't ask me. I was going to come in the hard way, and I grabbed hold of that top rope. And this is my very first day there, and I jumped over and didn't let loose. And that second rope, a grater on my face, and did $2,500 worth of damage right here on my cheese. All over being there like, we got his $200, but he's probably never going to come back, But I said, screw it. I got to do this. So I came back, and that was one thing. Early on, there were all these mostly soft tissue injuries.
Right.
But you got to learn. I mean, if you're going to bump right, if you're going to roll right, if you're going to, have your ankles right, if you're going to have a clothesline right, if you're going to come off that rope right, all that situational awareness inside there, your ring awareness, your ring generalship, all of that stuff has to all be taught all at once. And it's so much to take in. And it was difficult. I would come home and lick my wounds and, limp into work, and they'd look at me like, you're crazy as hell. I said, yeah, but I got a big smile on my face,
Dude, even at 17, man, when the first few weeks of training, my best friend was Epsom salt, man. I'm gonna be honest with you. My best friend, Epsom salt and ibuprofen, man. And that's 17 years old, man. Yeah. I don't think people realize, man, in your head, people who just watch wrestling, they think, well, surely that mat don't hurt that bad, and them ropes aren't that stiff. But look, that mat is unforgiving, and you right off the bat. Prime example of how dangerous those steel cables can be. Just a simple inside out, forgetting to let go, boom, tore your whole mouth up, man. That's something people need to realize, man. It's dangerous. This is a dangerous sport.
Yeah, a friend of mine, he's a dentist. He finally, he looked at one of my matches, and he kind of sent me a text message and said, "This looks dangerous." I'm like, it is dangerous. I mean, my God, what do you think? You know, it is a dangerous, yeah, it's sport entertainment, but it's dangerous. You know, we get hurt, we get
Right.
bruised up, you know, we have, and knock on wood, as far as the in-ring things so far for me have just been soft tissue, hamstring pulls. I had a ton of hamstring pulls up training with Gary Roosevelt Graham those 2.5 years up there in Harrison.
Right.
And I mean, those were marathon 4.5 hour training sessions, and I couldn't get enough. It was like, teach me, teach me, teach me, teach me, you know. And the hardest thing I've had to do is I'm dealing with I see you're kind of the last, you're actually kind of the last of the dying breed. Not me, it's you. But the ones younger have never seen a WCW. They've never seen a UWF. They've never seen a Mid-Atlantic. They've never seen the USA. They've never seen Tri-States. They've never seen any of that. All they've seen is WWE.
Right.
So, you know, trying to take the old school moves like a flying head scissors. When I walk up to somebody right now, so I'm gonna throw a flying head scissors on you, they're like, no, what? You know,
Right.
they don't get it, you know. So I say, okay, I'll keep it simple. I'll do a couple of these little quick hip tosses and stuff like that, and just keep things simple, and we'll just go from there, you know. And that's one thing I need to talk about is going to 901. So I got recommended to go to 901. I've been looking at their stuff and everything. And then I met Tommy Jacks. And this is the first time that I've been around a person who was booker promoter, but not a wrestler.
Right. That's hard to come by in this business.
It's hard to find them. And, you know, Tommy's just, in one word, fun. He's just fun. And if you get around him, and you like to do in the Bible, if you wear, you know, the world like a loose garment, you know, around Tommy, one of the first things he did to me is put me in a velveteen red tracksuit in Memphis. I said, he's pimping me out in Memphis. He's pimping me out. But he's kind of a genius, but what it did, it brought in this huge number of young people as fans.
Right.
And I had to learn a whole new language because they would say, your tracksuit goes hard. I'm like, oh, that sounds nasty. What does that mean? So I had to look it up and figure it out, this whole new language. And now I've got and that's another thing I want to ask you about. I've been so desperate to talk to you about. The Memphis crowd to me has always been a puzzle. It's like petting a rattlesnake. You know, they can go any other way. In Arkansas, I'm a baby. They will not allow me to be a heel in Arkansas. They just won't allow it. You know, and kind of the same way up in Springfield and Harrison and Oklahoma City and Tulsa. I mean, they just don't. It's like, no. And they really get disturbed if I become a heel. I go over into Memphis, and you know, Tommy's like, "This is your debut match. You're going to go against this guy who's only had 2 matches." So I'm like, "Oh, this is going to be a piece of cake," you know. So I just threw everything in the kitchen sink at him. I even stomped on his stomach. I think I, you know, did an elbow drop on his head. I think I stood on his head at one point. Anyway, I went to the back, and the reaction of the locker room shocked me. They were thrilled. And I sat down. All I wanted was a cup of water. And I finally got a cup of water. And Tommy Jacks walked up to me and went, "Thank you, thank you, thank you." And I got back at the back, and Andy Mack looked at me and he goes, "Listen, man, you got to understand, you're old, and what you just did was really old school, so it's perfect." And that's kind of what happened there. You know, that's kind of how things kind of fell into place. But the Memphis crowd, you know, and alcohol's involved. There's bars around.
Right.
You know, there's going to be alcohol involved when you get over into the Memphis area. And what I'm having trouble processing is, yeah, most people there hate me, but then there'll be these pocket of 12 and 20 and, you know, 15 who are cheering me. You know,
Man,
what?
here's the thing. Memphis wrestling fans, honest to God, in my opinion, they are some of the most loyal, some of the most intelligent wrestling fans anywhere in the world, man. Here's the thing. Everybody here, everybody from around our area grew up on Memphis wrestling, and not Memphis wrestling, what you see, but just, it wasn't even Memphis wrestling, and it was CWA and then USWA and whatever it was before that when Goulas had it, Goulas Promotions, whatever. Man, they are some of the most loyal, but they also, like you said, these fans decide they'll turn on you in a heartbeat. And one thing you got to realize, these fans, they love good wrestling, but they love their good wrestling with dukes and boots. I mean, they do. It's the style. It is the style. They want to see those fights. They want to see you throwing punches, throwing kicks, especially if you're a heel. Here's the one thing I see all the time nowadays. Too many heels are trying to wrestle too much when a heel needs to be kicking, stomping, biting, eye gouging, fish hooking. That's what you need to do as a heel. I see heels all the time. They'll have a guy down on the canvas, and instead of just walking up and stomping him on the head a few times, they'll pick him up and do a move. And heels, once a heel gets you on the ground, a heel beats the crap out of you. You don't see, heels don't pick you up and do wrestling moves. Heels do wrestling moves when the babyface makes a little comeback and the heel has to cut you off with a move or something, and then they go right back to eye gouging, stomping, kicking, punching.
That's what you had Merck on here, and the Merck, after my match, he came out. He just was laughing. He looked at me and he said, "I'm going to nickname you Mr. Mid-South Coliseum Wrestling."
Hey, that's a hell of a compliment, man.
Well, when he said that, I was like, "My God, I've made it. I've made it."
And look, I had Tommy on here a while back, several months ago, and
yes,
Tommy has a plan. Here's the one thing I learned about Tommy: he knows what he wants, and he knows how to get to that point.
Yes,
he's good at telling stories. That's why you fit in good, because I feel like 901's kind of becoming your home right now.
Yep.
But 901, the one thing they do, you're an anomaly, because truthfully, 901 has one of the youngest, most talented rosters around our whole area. So you're the anomaly in the group. But 901, man, they tell stories.
Yes.
And that's all that really matters. And that's what our fans growed up on. We all growed up on stories. We like the brawls, we like the fights, we like the wrestling, but we need to know why. Why we're even here watching this. We need to have that dragon for Jerry Lawler to slay. Mm-hmm. That's what wrestling really is. It's good versus evil, and it's always been that way. And get to the heart of it, it'll always be that way if you want it to really work.
Exactly. And one thing I love the most is you don't necessarily have to say a lot of words. I would look at people like Dick Murdoch and Mr. Wrestling too. All them folks were men of little words, and that they would get up in there and just tell the story. Ivan Koloff, all those people.
Man, I'm so glad to see Ivan Koloff. It's late, way too late, but I'm so glad to see they're going to induct him in the WWE Hall of Fame, because I growed up watching Ivan Koloff. Now, don't get me wrong, I growed up on the late 70, early 80 Ivan Koloff, which he was probably then maybe a little past his prime. But yeah. Ivan Koloff, I love that dude. One of the very best, one of the greatest wrestlers from my childhood. Look, you talk about Boris Zukov, you talk about Nikolai Volkov, and these dudes, I like all those dudes, but for me, Ivan Koloff is the Russian wrestler.
He is, and one thing I do before I have a match, I try to watch at least 4 or 5 Ivan Koloff matches, because there's a method to his madness, and I want to emulate that in the ring. I want people, when they come to see one of my matches, I want them to think that they've been transported back in time, and then It's back in the 80s, it's back in the 70s, it's back in the 50s and 60s, especially the 60s type stuff. I mean, I want them to experience what that was like and everything. And I hopefully you really made me feel good saying that that's kind of the way it kind of comes off. That makes me feel good.
Well, here's the thing. I don't think people realize how important Ivan Koloff was to Nikita Koloff being a star as quick as he was. You could have stuck Nikita out there without Ivan, and they probably would have still got him over, but Ivan got him over instantly. Just that rub from being the nephew of Ivan Koloff.
Yeah.
And the way Ivan would orientate, man, he would put Nikita over. He made him this monster. You were scared of Nikita. You were scared of Ivan, but you were scared of Nikita. And all of that is from Ivan Koloff, man. Ivan Koloff did that dude wonders, man.
And Ivan had an incredible Russian accent in his interviews that you could understand. Poor Nikita, you couldn't understand a word he said. He did a blah, 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 blah. Ivan would jump in and go,
I think Ivan had all those years of practice, man.
Yeah, I love, and that's one thing I loved about that time period was, there was always a tension between the Russians and the Americans, and it really got the fans going. You'd hear the USA chants and stuff like that, and that would just get Ivan just that much more pumped up to where he'd cut them off and start pounding the hell out of them. I watch Ivan matches before I step in the ring. That's my secret sauce right there.
Let me ask you this. We're talking about Ivan, man. Here's the thing. When I first started seeing you on Facebook and stuff, man, what really got me is your vignettes and stuff you would make. You would cut your little vignettes, and you said Slam probably had a big hand in helping you with some of those.
Slam, yeah, and Slam has a formula. I mean, and as soon as he kind of like told me what he wanted, I was like, okay, this cat knows what he's doing. He wants a certain number of venues. He wants a certain number of time. And then he has a power director, and he just kind of does this magic, and that's one thing you have to understand about like this tag team I have right now with Meklikov. Meklikov's a Russian.
Right.
I mean, when I get around him, sometimes I don't understand him. And that's his deal. I'm from the Bayou. I'm from the Bayou. I mean, I do voodoo. I make potions. It's a completely different thing altogether. And that's one thing that Jared seized on. And he brought out, that coon ass, which I am a genetic coon ass of Scottish origin. I mean, I look like a coon ass. I mean, he brought that out. And he was able to get it all collapsed down. And some of the best vignettes I had were when I was actually wrestling against Chief Hill, and Jared would have Jared kind of interest in, he puts things in your mind kind of like a little seed. He's like,
that's pro wrestling right there, 101 period. That's what pro wrestling is all about anyway. Yeah. Planting those little tiny seeds, and you may plant a seed, and you may not come back to it for weeks, sometimes a couple months, and then somewhere down the line you'll pick up and you'll water that seed a little bit, and then you'll watch that seed grow. The fans will remember, remember when he did this? Right. Boom! Now they know what's going on again. That's pro wrestling 101 right there.
Absolutely, and Jared is a master at that. Jared's. And he's got a degree in graphic arts, so
right.
Now that he's not, a garage door graphic artist. I mean, he's up there. And
I think he's done wonders for OCW. I'll be honest with you.
That's something like I need to tell you about. It's like, I've kind of got a worldwide fan base. It's, and this mostly because of the stuff that he does with vignettes and what he did at OCW and everything. I got lucky. They used me to launch the new era OCW, basically.
Right.
So I got on there and I just started posting like a madman. I'm like, I'm taking full advantage of this situation, And I even remember when I won the heavyweight title, I was like, look, these people are outlaws, but I'm going to grab hold of my ass with both hands. I'm going to ride this pony out as long as I can, you know. And honestly, as long as I could handle it was 4.5 months. And I told them, I'm like, I'm going to have to give this up. I'm sore. My neck is sore.
This title's getting heavy on my back, man. This title's getting heavy to tote.
Everybody's bringing in their grandma and all their relatives to watch them. Whoever I wrestle, you know, they bring in their whole family, so they're beating the hell out of me every Saturday night, you know. And I remember they had this one security guard that was there, and he was like, "You took a hell of a beating." And I'm like, "Yeah, every damn Saturday night, you know." But Jared, and I wish Jared well wherever he lands and everything. I hope to see him soon. He
ought to be somewhere working for a big time wrestling company, making vignettes and producing stuff like that for him. He really is good, man. He is really good.
I think it scares him. I think that thought right there scares him. He's going to have to step through that door.
And here's the thing.
You stepped in the ring, and you got to admit that first match you were scared to death when you got up in there. Right. And it's still like jumping off the cliff. I mean, when that bell goes off, it's still like, to me, I'm like, oh crap, it's real all of a sudden, and that's kind of the way it is. He's going to have to step through that door, and then we will see more of him. Yeah.
And like I said, I think he's helped OCW so much because with him there on board, OCW it's a highly character story driven wrestling promotion.
Right.
Here's the thing. OCW cares more about telling you the story and you understand the characters and who these guys are more than they're worried about guys getting in there having 5-star matches, because one thing we all know, if you can get the fans to invest in the character, the person, after that, it's really easy.
Yeah.
I mean, what you do in the ring, once they're invested in you or me, then they're going to follow what we do in the ring. So that makes that so much easier. But OCW is highly, highly character driven. Yeah. It almost reminds me of a throwback to 80s WWF kind of style, character driven, man.
I think that's in their mind. I really do think that's in their mind. And then we have the miracle of the internet that's spreading that all over the world. You ought to see some of the reactions and the comments that I get when I post pictures from OCW and everything. It just, and now, there's 901, and 901 is similar to that. I mean, it's just, it's story driven and all that bunch of stuff. And there are some characters there, Dorian Bain, there's myself, there's Meklikov, Merck. I mean, you've got all these people kind of coming in there who are developing these characters and everything in front of this Memphis crowd.
I think 901, man, to be honest with you, I feel like 901's really got the pulse on the Memphis crowd. Actually Memphis, you know what I mean? You can be Memphis wrestling, you can be whatever, but I feel like 901 is constantly ingraining themselves into the community of Memphis, Tennessee. And that goes a long way, man, especially since y'all got to Minglewood Hall. Yes. It seems like every show, y'all's crowd just keeps growing and growing, man.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in tall cotton. I mean, I have to pinch myself. I'm like, how did I get here? Because when we were at Black Lodge, I would literally get, Black Lodge is over in Crosstown. And, I had a couple of bars in it, and they had food, and there was kind of one way in and then an alleyway. And I was always afraid to catch fire and get like 300 people in there. And I'm like, oh, it feels dangerous. I got to figure out how to get down out here in case this place catches fire. But, Black Lodge we kind of exploded out through the doors there. I mean, just so many people were showing up and everything. And, Black Lodge had that feel, and the audience was right there on top of you at Black Lodge. I mean, I was so used to guardrails.
Right.
And it brought I was like, man, where is your security? Where's this? It's like, I think they're drinking beer. That's And
Security's drunk over in the corner, man.
they're so sloshed, they're not going to get out of their seat. You can do anything to them, you know.
Hey, the security, they're actually so drunk they're fans now. So
The fans are the security.
right.
But you know, that's kind of the way it was. And then we moved over. When I first walked into Minglewood, I just went, wow.
Yeah, it's a nice venue, man.
Yeah, and I feel like I've arrived. I mean, I feel like I'm on par with anything in New York or Atlanta or Chicago, Hollywood, Dallas, San Antonio, any of that. I mean, I feel like, wow, how did this happen? You know, so I can die a happy man now. You know,
Well, Minglewood Hall is Memphis, Tennessee. I mean, it's as simple as that. Minglewood Hall, kind of the same way as the Mid-South Coliseum. It's Memphis, Tennessee's heart. It's at the heart. Everybody knows. Everybody in Memphis knows that name, knows what it is, knows where it is, and that's the one thing I love about 901, man. I'll be honest with you. I'm so glad that whatever went down with Black Lodge went down and y'all ended up at 901, because I feel like 901 combined with Minglewood Hall, I feel like it helped complete the package.
well, now there's more. Bobby Ford has started his own, I guess,
I seen that.
Yeah, started his own promotion, and so they take these big warehouses and factories and they turn them into breweries, and they've got a big area for entertainment. And so they're starting to put shows in there. It's so nice to see independent wrestling come back after the pandemic. I was so afraid that it was gone. And
you know, it took it a few years, but
yeah,
man, I'm like you. Over the past probably 2 years, independent wrestling has just exploded again, man.
yes. And I remember you know, I wanted to train with Methlikoff. So I said, you know, do you know where there's a ring? And Methlikoff said, well, let's rent out the OCW ring. I'm like, I don't know those people. At that time, I didn't. And so he rented out the ring from them. And we went in there. This is during the pandemic. I mean, when you ain't supposed to be around nobody without a mask or anything.
Right.
I snuck in there, and we had us about a 4-hour training session, took some pictures, and I posted them, and I said, you know, don't let this die. Don't let this die. And I guess just putting the pictures out there and letting them see the surroundings, this big kind of upswell happened with the audience, and they were like, are y'all open? Are y'all open? You know, so that I knew that independent wrestling had not died at that point. You know, but it was just hard to get people off the couch and get them back into the seats and back into independent wrestling again. And I'm so glad that they've done it. And that's the other thing I want to mention. You know, everybody has their idyllic sense of what, you know, their perfect American dream would be. And mine is, you know, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker and the policeman will get together on Saturday and have wrestling matches, and then on Monday you see them at work.
Right.
I love that, and that's going to happen in Manila on, I think it's Friday, April 25th. They're going to have a big show there, and you're going to have the policemen and the butchers, the bakers, and the candlestick makers, and the teachers, and everybody else in there, and they'll draw in 2,500 people. You know, there at the Manila gym and everything. So be on the lookout for that come April 25th.
And here's the thing, man. Look, whether people want to admit it or not, professional wrestling is ingrained in America. Really, not just America. Pro wrestling is kind of like music, honestly. It seems to be the universal language, because you can go to any other country and 2 pro wrestlers can get in the ring, and if they've been trained well, they can come up, they can create a match, they can wrestle.
Yeah.
It's as big as, I mean, truthfully, I look at it as big, for me, way bigger than baseball. Everybody, it's baseball, pie, mom's apple pie, and baseball. Pro wrestling ranks right there in America with every bit of that, man. Pro wrestling to me is just as important as football, baseball, and mama's apple pie.
What do they say about the South? The 3 R's: racing, rodeo, and wrestling.
Wrestling. Right.
You know, and I think it's just a part of our culture. And it's like I told you when I was in those diapers, you know, watching that black and white TV show, that's what it meant to be a man. You know, it's like, and I knew my dad always wanted to be a wrestler. So, you know, me being a part of the Memphis wrestling scene just brings me sometimes almost to tears of just that circle, you know, of life that kind of happened. I am my father's son, you know,
Right.
and I'm just the luckiest man in the world. And the reason why I'm the luckiest man in the world is all these people that we've been talking about tonight, including you, you know, and the influence that you've had on me, and the way you've sparked me, you know, with the stuff you've put on YouTube and everything, that you know, that propels Roscoe Monroe forward in the nation. And you know, I can't be more grateful. You know, I thank the Lord every night. Thank you for making me a wrestler, and thank you for the nation and the people, you know, who get behind me and everything. I can't express that more. You know,
Man, Roscoe Nation is steady growing, man. I remember the first couple of times you said that, and then over the last couple of years, man, Roscoe Nation seems to have grown, dude. Growed a whole bunch, man.
every time I wrestle somebody, it's like I kind of pull in some of their fans, and they pull in some of mine, and everything, and they'll ask questions. They'll ask, well, you know, what is Miklikoff like, or you know, what is Buster like, or what is, well, God, ask them. That's what, you know, there's message services for you.
Right.
You know, get off your butt, get brave, and ask them. You know, but it's just, I try to be as technically savvy as I possibly can. I learned when I lived in Atlanta for 2 years, and what I learned down there was from the Chamber of Commerce. They Chinese water drip you to death. That's why they get all of the head home offices there. You know, is every day they contact you. So every day I try to post something if I can.
Right.
Now, I work in Hot Springs across from Oaklawn Racetrack and Casino. So that kind of keeps me tied up sometimes, and I can't make a lot of, and I also work in Brinkley. So sometimes I can't post every single day, but I try to get out there and get in front of everybody every day, and try to draw in as much as I can. And I try to promote those around me as best I can to, you know, move it forward and everything, you know.
Tommy Jackson and me and Tommy Jackson actually had that conversation about you. For an older guy, man, you all over the social media.
Yeah, you kind of have to be. I mean, nowadays, and let's face facts, you know. Yeah, there's WWE, but we have to make our own WWE.
Right.
This Buster Unmasked is our WWE. This is our WCW. You know, so you know, this is what it's all about. You know, and in a way, we're more to the people than any of the others because we don't cost $180 a ticket. You know,
and they can come and literally touch you. They can come to a show and talk to Roscoe Monroe right there up close, hot breath on them. They can come there and get the whole thing, sweat flying on them, a little bit of spit. And I've tried to tell people that before. Look, Moondog, when he first started Osceola in 1994, that show's still going today, and there are kids, grandkids, and great grandkids that have grown up and are still going to this show. It's different now than it was when he had it, but it's the same show. And to those people, whether you want to believe it or not, you might be Hulk Hogan to those people.
Yeah.
You know, and that's just the way it is, man. And it's important to acknowledge the fans. I believe, Roscoe.
Yes. Absolutely, absolutely. And that's, you know, goes back to the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. I want them to be able to see me, you know. Now, I will admit, I do get kind of, because of what I do get a bit of People who they don't, I'm a semi-retired pharmacist, so they have a tendency to be kind of like, oh my God, he does that, and then when everybody's gone, they'll come behind me and they'll go, that is so damn cool. I'm like, why didn't you say that in front of everybody else,
You can't be embarrassed to be a wrestling fan. We
Yeah,
don't tolerate that, man.
I mean, if you're going to be a part of the nation, you got to live this shit, I mean, come on now, stop that. If you like it, live it. Don't be afraid of everybody else's. Well, that's just low life stuff. Well, maybe so, but it's fun.
I don't think people realize that either. And you can be stressed out to the max in real life. No matter what's going on, that bell rings or disappears. And when you get back in the dressing room and in your car, heading home and in the bed at night, you may not be able to go to sleep because your mind's racing, but you are relaxed to the hilt. All that stress is gone for a while, Let me ask you this, Roscoe. We're fixing to start winding it down.
Okay.
Man, at 67, you're still built like a fucking brick shit house, man. So talk to me about how you stay in shape, man, at 67 years old, dude.
So I told you my dad was he looked like a wrestler, and he was a World War II veteran with PTSD, and he could beat the hell out of you. So starting about age 10, I started lifting weights, and I stayed in the gym my entire life because, I had a lady down in Atlanta. She looked at me and she goes, I know why you're all muscled up and everything. And it's not because you're narcissistic or vain or mean or anything like that. It's because it's your way of saying to people, you're not going to hurt me. And I'm like, you're exactly right. That's why I stay in the gym, and that's why I want these muscles, and plus they're sexy as hell, and I get comfortable.
You sound like Sam now, man. I'm thinking Sam's right around 67 or so too, man.
Yeah. Sam's sexy as hell. I am too. I like my cowboy hat.
Oh God, don't give his ass a mirror. He ain't never seen a mirror that he didn't like, man. I'll be honest with you.
I get an eye in a mirror every once in a while, but I promise you, I'm not narcissistic. Okay, I promise.
So before we wrap it down completely and start getting out of here, we talked about Ivan Koloff. Give me a few more of your influences, man. The guys that really made you want to be a wrestler.
Yeah, let's go back. Let's go to Edouard Carpentier. He was incredibly muscled up, and he also liked to use the ropes. But I mean, he kept you on the ground. I would go and say Vern Gagne. I got lucky. I lived on a sailboat for 3 years trying to save money. And I got AWA on a little cable thing, and I was wrapped up in Vern Gagne. Vern, to me, that image of the father figure, the clean athletic wrestler, that. And then as far as the heels, there's just so many. Lou Thesz, I study Lou Thesz. Of course, Ivan Koloff. My God, they need to make a statue of Ivan Koloff, as far as I'm concerned.
Oh, they got my vote on that one, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They need a statue of Ivan Koloff, and then who else? I mean, there's just so many. Cowboy Bill Watts, Mr. Wrestling 2.
Well, Cowboy Bill Watts and Vern Gagne, that's kind of, they would have loved you. That's kind of, I see that because that's kind of your look, your style. Y'all don't look alike, but that same stocky build, just hard-nosed wrestlers. I can see that, man. I think you'd fit right in with those guys.
I want to honor them. I want to pull that whole energy, that whole genre, that whole feel, that whole wrestling world, and put it out there so that these people can experience it before I die. And that's what I was trying to make earlier is I'm wrestling these younger people and they really don't quite grasp that. However, there are a few who get it. And if I get me a younger wrestler who understands the old school and I can get out there and we can start, getting down and doing what we were talking about earlier, I love that. I hate when the bell rings on that, when it's over with. I 1, 2, 3. I love those matches, get you in a good headlock, get a good headlock, take down some hip tosses, some back body drops and some monkey flips and stuff like that. And some stomp. Let's get some stomping.
I don't think they use monkey flips enough anymore, or hardly. I very seldom see old school monkey flips, man.
No, but we got to get some stomping and some elbow drops. I love my elbow drops and stuff like that. And body slams. Yeah.
I mean, here's the thing. At the basics, if you're a heel and I'm a babyface, it's my job to sell. That's what I do. You put the heat on me. You keep putting the heat on me. It allows me to sell, to try to get the sympathy from the fans. And it's simple. You really don't have to do a lot, especially down here in the South. Up north, you got to wrestle a lot more. Down here, man, once you get that match going and that heel starts getting heat, all you got to do as a heel, just keep that heat on that baby, give him some hope spots here and there until it's time to go home, man. And the crowd will be right there with it.
You and Chief Hill are built from the same cloth, that's for sure. And that's what I've learned from Chief Hill was, and whenever I have matches with Chief Hill is, it's like there come a time in a match, I just kind of pull back and let him loose, and he'll flat tear your ass up. All I gotta do is just sell it, and just kind of go with the flow and let that match go where it's gonna go. And occasionally he'll get a chain and hit me upside the head with it. And I don't know my name for a couple of days, but that's okay.
Gotta make it look good, Roscoe. Gotta make it look good.
I don't know who I am, but it Listen, Buster, man, I feel like we are absolutely made from the same cloth. I feel like you're a brother from another mother, man.
I feel the same way, man. I've enjoyed this. I've been looking forward to it. We finally made it here with 2 extra weeks?
Yeah.
2 weeks. We finally got here, Roscoe, and I have enjoyed talking to you so much, man. I knew this conversation. I just had a feeling it was going to be good, man.
Yeah.
Really good. So, look, here's the thing. You can have some people you just connect with.
Yeah.
I try to connect with every guest.
Yeah.
But you can have good podcasts, and then but there's other people you just, for some reason, it just clicks, and I feel like me and you clicked immediately.
Absolutely. I clicked as soon as I seen your videos, and as soon as I saw some of the stuff you're posting, I was like, okay, he gets it. They talk about it in the business, and I'm like, he's got it and he gets it. Thank you so much for doing what you do.
I appreciate that, Roscoe. I really do.
Keep up what you build this world of wrestling, because it ain't going to be long when I'm gone, and we're going to need people like you to let the younger generation know what this is and where it's going, and they don't need to miss this.
I appreciate that, Roscoe. Here's the thing. I tell people all the time, young guys especially, they get discouraged in the wrestling business because it's a thankless business.
That's true.
Nobody ever really thanks you. It's just
egos.
I mean, it is. It's a thankless business, and it feels good when somebody tells you stuff like that. Those kind of words, Roscoe. I appreciate it so much, man.
You're number one.
Pro wrestling, other than my family, pro wrestling is life. It's always been my life. I was married to pro wrestling long before I was ever married to my wife.
How do you feel about that?
Dude, I honestly, her and her family used to come to the wrestling shows when she was a kid.
Yeah.
And she fit right in. She understands what wrestling is. She understands that when I was active, that I got to go. You can't be worried about what I'm going to do. You got to trust me to be me and know that I'm going to go have my match and then bring my ass home.
Right.
And relationships are hard in pro wrestling. You got to find the exact right partner, because they just got to understand this business. They were lifelong wrestling fans. And matter of fact, her whole family hated me and Sam for years and years. And then one day, me and her meet. And the next time her family sees me, I'm walking through their front door.
Well, there's one white elephant that we didn't talk about tonight. That's the sexy aspect of this business. And wrestlers are sexy people. So, that's one big thing about it right there. That's what makes the relationships so difficult sometimes. So,
man, I got to get you and Sam on the same podcast because I'm just going to fade out and let you give y'all 2 mirrors. I'll just give you 2 mirrors to look at yourself, man.
I love Sam to death. He'll come in the locker room. He'll shake your hand with them 2 fingers. It's like, come on, man.
Got to test you, Roscoe.
Yeah.
Got to make sure you're smart, man.
That's like, oh, you ain't shit. You don't know what this is.
Roscoe, dude, before we close it out, I know you got social media. Any shows coming up? Plug anything you need to plug, man.
Just the big one in Manila, the Thriller in Manila come April the 25th. It's a Friday. It's a a benefit. And it goes to the kids. Like if they take kids out to the zoo and they need all of them to have purple T-shirts, well, they can get it for this fun. And that way, the ones who are less fortunate don't have to worry about not having the purple T-shirts. It's a really neat fun. And I don't know if you know Big C. He's the school resource officer there. He's the Mississippi County, Arkansas sheriff. And Chief Hill will be there. There'll be a lot of the law enforcement, fire department, all the school people and everything. So there'll be about 2,500 people there. So
it's going to be at the school, it's not going to be at the community center in Manila because they got had a nice community center. It's been a while since I've been there, but it's going to be at the school, right?
That's a gym.
Okay.
It's a big one.
Hey, it ain't been but a year or so ago, somebody drawed 500 or 600 people there at least, didn't they?
Oh,
I want to say TNR maybe ran a show there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Manila's another town. It's always been a great wrestling town.
It has, and that whole all them people that live there, all the Lowlife family and all them other folks that live there and everything, they've taught me so much. I can't be any more grateful. I really can't. Just the best. Just the best. With the salt of the earth. So.
Right.
So are you. Thank you.
I appreciate that. Roscoe, I want to thank you so much, man, for coming on here, man. I want to thank you for us having to reschedule and you being up for it, man. This has been a blast for me, dude. I've enjoyed this way more than I thought I would, man.
Yeah, me too. We got to meet in person. We'll make it happen.
Yeah, definitely, man. Definitely.
Do you get back in the ring at all?
Hell no, Roscoe. Hell. Look, before we get out of here, about 7 months ago, I was, because I go to shows and do commentary sometimes.
Yeah.
So I was at a show in Missouri, and they had just bought a brand new Mike Samples ring.
Yep.
When I say brand new, ain't broke in a bit, man. I got there early, about 4 o'clock. I decided I was going to get in. I had my son with me, so I decided I was going to get in the ring and take a bump, Roscoe. I took one bump, man, and everything inside me was just shaking. Dude, look, I didn't even get up inside the ring. I laid there about 2.5 minutes, and then I rolled out under the bottom rope, man. Hey, it was hard. I might as well have just took the bump on the concrete floor because it was just as hard, dude.
This wood ain't cured.
Look, I don't think it take me a solid year of taking bumps for my body to get used to that again, man.
Man, I got to train. I have got to train. I mean, at least once a month or two or twice a month or something. Good 4 hours before I can do anything like that again. Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
My muscle memory done forgot all about taking bumps. I'll be honest with you, Roscoe.
Rolling is out of the question.
Hey, I'll be like one of them vets, like, look, kid, I ain't taking no bumps tonight, man. No, not one bump, man. That's on you. You're taking all the bumps, man.
Your dad is done with that.
Right. Roscoe, man, thank you so much, man. I appreciate you. And you have a great night, my friend.
Thank you, sir.
All right, y'all, you seen it right there. Roscoe Monroe, 901 Wrestling. Go check this guy out, man. Always entertaining. Without a doubt, old school, like I said, throwback, or I don't know, he may have walked through a time warp. We do not know. His dad could be channeling himself through Roscoe. Old school to the core, always entertaining. All right, guys, look, I got to promote these upcoming podcasts one more time before we get out of here, and then I'll let all y'all go.
One shot to the head, I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down, man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fame, and she look better in bed. And I'ma walk this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change, I got one life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging, don't you forget. Everything is so boring, can't get up in the morning. I'm so sick of the mundane and routine. I'm gonna break without warning. I wanna taste the pain, I think I'm seeing all red. 2 bullets in the gun, one shot to the head, I need a blank space. 'Cause everything is a threat, but I never back down, man, I'd rather be dead. I'm making love to fame, and she look better in bed. And I'ma rock this life till I take my last breath. I wanna make a change, I got one life left, so I'm gonna go down swinging, don't you forget.
All right, guys, seen it right there. A lot of cool podcasts coming up. I want to thank Roscoe Monroe for coming on tonight, being our guest. I want to thank each and every one of you guys and girls who tuned in, interacted with us. I appreciate you guys so much. I'm back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. with Brian Hitt, the Hit Marker, young guy making a name for himself in the wrestling business, opening a lot of eyes, and I'm anxious to talk to him. And then Friday, I'll be back with everybody's goddess, mine and yours, the EPW Women's Champion, Next. Till then, y'all take it easy.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move so descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that. Spitting slow, spitting fast, I could roast, I could gas. Think I'm okay at last, but I don't know if that can erase all the past. And the pettiness, a reflection of the emptiness. Hilarious, you think you're worth my time, you're delirious. Mysterious, because you hide behind a fake exterior. Inferior, you know I'll always be a bit superior. Get off of me, this ain't no humble brag. I want you to hear words, you can say them back. I want you to feel free from the chains that last, and to believe in what you got, it was built to last, yeah.
Now that I've been put through hell, I never got anyone's help. I had to do it all myself.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement.